The Day of the Dead. November 2nd. The Altar of the Dead, Day of the Dead. It is a popular Mexican celebration to honor the deceased. It takes place on the 2nd of November, although it begins to celebrate from the first day. Its origin dates back to the Mesoamerican cultures that inhabited the Mexican territory before the arrival of the Spaniards, such as the Mexica, Mayan, Mixtec, Texcocana, Zapotec, Tlaxcala and Totonaca ethnic groups. Originally, according to the Mixtec calendar, it was celebrated during the 9th month of the solar year. At its first manifestations in the Mesoamerican Middle Preclassic, 12th to 20th centuries BC, and concluded with the Spanish conquest in the first decades of the 16th century of the Christian era. The historical territory of this town is the area known as La Mixteca, Nuujawai, in Old Mixtec, a mountainous region that is located between the current Mexican states of Puebla, Oaxaca, and Guerrero. The purpose of the ritual is to honor and celebrate the life of the ancestors, the beloved dead and the exemplary dead. In this sense, they are honored with all kinds of offerings and an altar is erected in their memory inside the houses. As such, the Day of the Dead is a day of recollection and prayer, but also of celebration. It is also considered that the memory and the presence of the dead relatives are celebrated, who that day return home to be with their relatives and to feed on the offerings that have been dedicated to them. The Altar of the Dead. The Altar of the Dead is part of one of the most important cultural traditions in Mexico. Its purpose is to honor and commemorate the memory of the deceased on the Day of the Dead, between the 1st and 2nd of November, when the souls of the deceased visit the world of the living. The result of the elaboration of an altar of the dead is the combination of a set of pre-Hispanic and Catholic elements and beliefs in order to commemorate death, its symbolism, and the hope of thinking that death is not final because you can reconnect with your loved ones one day a year. On the Day of the Dead it is a tradition to raise a domestic altar, also called the Altar of the Dead, with offerings in homage to the dead. In it they put food, the traditional bread of the dead, drinks, clothes, valuable objects, ornaments, skulls, flowers, champasachil, and aromatic herbs. With all this, what is intended is to receive and gift the dead as a token of affection and memory. What is the champasachil flower? The marigold flower is the flower of a plant known as tajit, Chinese carnation or Indian carnation. In Mexico, it is called the flower of the dead or champaxicatl. Its scientific name is Tagetes erecta. The word champasachil, as such, comes from Nahuatl and means 20 flower or 20-petal flower. Champasachil is a flower with great symbolic value in Mexico, especially in the celebration of the Day of the Dead. Besides this, the flower is also used in the gardening world for its ornamental virtues. Due to its popularity and uniqueness, Origami crafts are also made by reproducing this flower on paper. Characteristics of the cempasúchil flower. The marigold flower is an autochthonous species of Mexico and Central America. The plant from which it sprouts can reach more than a meter in height. It reproduces by seeds, and its flowering time is during the Nordic summer and fall. Its flower is very aromatic and its color ranges from yellow to orange. What is the flower for cempasúchil? Flower is used in some Mexican states as a traditional medicine, mainly as a remedy for digestive diseases. It is also used in some places to fight respiratory and eye diseases. Several scientific studies confirm some medicinal properties of the cempasúchil flower. It is antibacterial, antifungal and antioxidant. Other uses of the cempasúchil flower. It is increasingly used as a natural coloring in feed, dry food that is given to livestock, intended for poultry consumption. Poultry farming is the practice of caring for and raising birds as domestic animals for different purposes, and the culture that exists around this activity is nurturing. The characteristics of this flower increase the yellow coloration of the skin of chickens and the yolk of eggs. It is also used as an ingredient in making soups and infusions. Likewise, it is also used to make insecticides. What is the altar of the dead? The altar of the dead is one of the fundamental elements of the celebration of the Day of the Dead in Mexico. It represents the vision that pre-Hispanic cultures had of death. The altar of the dead consists of several floors where the syncretism of pre-Hispanic religions is fused with the Catholic religion. The basic levels of an altar of the dead are heaven and earth. It can have up to 7 levels, where each step symbolizes the steps necessary to reach Mictlán. The 9 regions of Mictlán or Chicanauurmictlán refer to the underworld of Mexican mythology, the place of eternal rest. The altar is placed on a table, in a room inside the home, and this will be the place where the offerings of the Day of the Dead will be. According to the belief, the gifts placed on the altar attract the spirits to facilitate the trip from Mictlán to the homes of their relatives to enjoy a night of partying. The levels of the altar of the dead. 7 levels, 2 being the minimum. The first 2 levels represent heaven and earth, while the third level symbolizes the underworld, defined by the Catholic religion as purgatory. The remaining links represent the steps necessary to get to heaven and rest in peace. The altars have different levels, which can vary from 2 to 7 levels in order to represent the celestial, the earthly world and the underworld. Next, the elements that are used to place in the altars of the dead. Elements of the altar of the dead. The items that are placed on the altar of the dead depend on the level at which they are. Some of the objects that correspond to each floor of the altar of the dead are: first floor, image of the saint of whom one is a devotee. Second floor, image of the souls. Third floor, salt. Fourth floor, image of the main character. Fifth floor, favorite food of the guests of the world of the dead. Sixth floor, photography and portraits of the deceased. Seventh floor, cross formed by seeds or fruits. 10 essential elements in an altar of the dead and their meaning. Flowers bow. The arch represents the gateway of the dead to the world of the living, which is why it is so important and is placed on the last level of the altar. It is characterized by being decorated with cempasúchil flowers, fruits and, in some cases, sweets. Cempasúchil flowers are yellow in color and are characterized by the aroma they give off. These flowers are used because their color evokes the sun in the Aztec tradition, and because it is believed that their aroma guides the dead to the entrance of the world of the living. Confetti. The papel picado is a tradition that is preserved from the Aztec customs for the elaboration of the altar. However, with colonization, the type of paper to be used was modified and more colors were added. The use of paper consists of painting or cutting the silhouettes of skulls, tombstones, words related to the Day of the Dead, among others. The most used colors are yellow or orange and purple. At present, these papers are obtained in different colors and with designs made based on the caricatures of José Guadalupe Posada. He was an engraver, illustrator, and cartoonist from Aguascalientes, famous for his drawings of costumbristas, folkloric scenes, socio-political criticism, and for his illustrations of calicas or skulls, including La Catrina. Generally these papers are joined through a thread in order to form a garland that is hung or placed in various parts of the altar. Candles. Candles, tapers, or torches are used to represent fire. They are placed in the shape of a cross for Christians or pointing to the 4 cardinal points according to pre-Hispanic tradition. This in order that the deceased have enlightenment and can recognize the way to the world of the living. Water. In the altars it is customary to place a glass or jug with water so that the deceased can quench his thirst after the trip to the world of the living. Foods. Food and sawdust are placed to represent the earth. It is customary to place seeds, fruits, spices, cocoa, the bread of the dead, skulls made of sugar and those foods and drinks that the deceased liked. Skulls. The skulls or skulls and skeletons are images that remind us that death is part of life and the importance of its acceptance. These are usually given between friends or family and the name of the person who receives it is placed on the forehead. The skulls placed on the altars are of different sizes and designs, and can be made from plaster or edible materials such as sugar, chocolate, gelatin, and amaranth. It is considered a pseudo-cereal. It is a way of seeing death as something sweet and not strange or alien to life. The best known or famous skull image is La Calavera Garbancera, by José Guadalupe Posada. Incense. Formerly, copal was used, but today incense is used, which serves to purify the space and its pleasant smell should attract the deceased to the altar to receive their offerings. Incense is lit during the time of prayer in order to unite the heavenly with the earthly. Salt. It is a symbol for the purification of the soul of all those people or children who died without having been baptized, as well as to prevent the arrival of evil spirits. The salt is placed in glasses or in the shape of a cross. Religious objects. The Day of the Dead festivity today is the result of the mixture of pre-Hispanic and Catholic traditions. Therefore, on altars they usually place Catholic objects and figures such as rosaries, images of saints, virgins, angels, crosses or crucifixes. Other elements. It is also customary to place on the altars all those objects that the deceased used to use or that they liked the most. These may include clothing, games, and other personal items. Koloitskewintlan. Koloitskewintlan is a dog with little hair that, according to Aztec tradition, when a person dies for natural reasons, is in charge of accompanying the soul of the deceased along the way and crossing the Izquintlan River, until reaching Mitlan or place of the dead. Pictures. People usually place images, drawings, or photographs of their deceased on altars to represent them. It is a more recent practice.
En que llegará con su vestido entallado, cigarro en la mano, elegante al compás. Ronda la noche cual dama elegante esperando la dejes pasar. Te besa en los labios, te toma la mano, te lleva hacia su tenue hogar. Tienes tan lindos collares, de nada te sirven si viva no estás. Compras enormes obsequios, de nada te sirven, pues ella vendrá. Acabada la noche, vuelve a tu lugar, mi señora, mi dama exigente, Katrina, marchamos siempre a tu compás. Este va. Dama, mi dulce gitana, la mano me tomas, me invitas a ir. La plaza repleta de flores, de alegres colores.